Hey guys, hello, welcome back to my channel. It's me, Steven. I'm in Indiana. I never thought I'd say that before. I'm in Indianapolis. I've not seen the city because it's too cold. I'm not really dressed properly. I don't have enough warm weather things. This is one of my trusty layover shirts because it just packs so easily. So I'm just hanging out in my hotel room, eating, sleeping, and watching some YouTube videos without a cat sitting on my laptop, which is really refreshing. I have been tagged, as you can tell by the title of the video, in a recent flight attendant tag, which was started by Primrose Paris. I had never seen her channel before until today, and so I've been binge watching her videos. I'm now a new subscriber. She had tagged Gally Alley, who is a new hire with my airline. She was a regional flight attendant for a while, and she is a great addition to our airline. I'm very excited that she's flying with us. And I was super flattered that she tagged me. Thank you, Allie. I appreciate it. In fact, I was just about to watch Trolley Dolly's answers to this video, but I did pause it because I don't want to, answer the way that she answered. Chances are I wouldn't have, because her video is, I think, 12 minutes long, 13 minutes long. And if you know anything about my channel, I talk a lot more than that. So I'm going to try and get these questions nailed out and not take 45 minutes of your time. So thank you for watching. I do appreciate it. Welcome to my channel. Let's get started. So number one, how do I become a flight attendant? All right. So first things first, start with your, building your resume. If you are very young, start building your resume, start volunteering, do things like, lifeguarding, babysitting, all sorts of stuff, volunteering at hospitals, whatever. Get some customer service experience under your belt. Then once you have a resume that you can kind of cobble together, make sure that you get your passport. Some airlines will allow you to interview with a receipt for a passport. I would show them that you're serious, that you're ready to go to training, that you don't have to wait for anything. Have your passport. There's a website called Flight Attendant Career Connections, also a Facebook group by the same name. I would avoid the Facebook group as much as I love Abby, who is the person who started that Facebook group. There's just, for me, too much drama on the page. I haven't been a member for a little while, so maybe things have changed, but I'm not a fan. Her website is masterful. She's done a great job. You can actually go to her website and look at and see a listing of currently who is hiring, pretty much anybody who's hiring, and she updates it really regularly. So you'll find some really useful information. Go to the website, apply to any airline that you would work for. I would not say I'm only going to work for this airline. You might be missing out on a great opportunity. This airline that I work for now was not my ideal choice, was not my first choice. It happens to be the perfect fit for me. So I would do yourself a favor and don't limit yourself to one or two airlines. Apply to any airline that you would work for. Do your research. YouTube is a great source. There's a lot of flight attendants up here. And then once you get to the hiring event, to get to the hiring event, I see lots of people on Facebook say that they can't go to a hiring event or a face-to-face interview because they can't afford the airline ticket if the airline does not pay for it. They can't afford a hotel room, again, if the airline doesn't pay for it. They just can't afford to go to the interview. Now, if that's the case, stop, drop, and roll. Don't go. Save your money. If you can't afford to get to the interview, I'm going to promise you that the first year or two of the job is going to be hell. Because financially it's already challenging. So if you walk into this with no money at all saved, it's going to be very stressful. I'm glad I wasn't filming videos the first 6 months, 9 months of my job, because it was super depressing in terms of money. Having the ability to travel anywhere but not being able to go because I had no money. So that's my suggestion for becoming a flight attendant. I should say also that all of my recommendations and anything I say about this flight attendant tag is really aimed at U.S. flight attendants. Lately, I've been getting a lot of messages from some folks in the Philippines, which have their own very specific bits and pieces that you want to follow in the process of becoming a flight attendant. Number 2, do you have any remedies for jet lag or bloating? Jet lag, take short naps. Short. Set 15 alarms if you have to, but if you have a red eye, for example, as I did last night, get to your destination, get in bed, take a nap as best you can, even if you really don't sleep. But rest, close your eyes, close the curtains, relax, rest for maybe an hour, hour and a half. Watch out for sleeping too long, because if you sleep for 4 or 5 hours, most of your day is kind of ruined, especially if you have a long flight back the next day or multiple legs. But take very short naps and do your best to get as much sleep as you can in preparation for the next day. For example, we had a red eye to Indianapolis. I got here at 6, got to the hotel, ate breakfast, went to sleep. Now, if I wanted to go into Indianapolis, I would have only slept for an hour. Gone into Indianapolis tired, but I would resolve that with caffeine, whatever. Enjoy the day, get back to your room early enough to be able to sleep for the next day. I used to wear a smartwatch. Now I tend to wear this little automatic watch. I do keep an eye on what my local time is at home, so I kind of have in the back of my mind what I would be normally doing right there. So my brain and my body are kind of sometimes out of whack, but it allows me to survive a trip without too much jet lag. Bloating. I really don't bloat a lot. I'm just naturally fluffy. Kidding. I don't bloat a lot, but I would avoid, I don't. Salty snacks. Salt will always, in conjunction with the amount of water that we have to drink as a flight attendant, a lot of water and a lot of salt and carbohydrates equals bloat. So, ixnay on the salt, salte, also whatever pig Latin it is for salt. And I would avoid carbonated beverages at all cost. Now, bloating, I don't really bloat a lot, but the one thing that it's almost never talked about on these videos, gas. All right, no one's ever going to say the word fart. Will they? I don't know. I just did. No one's really going to talk about passing gas. You are going to be surprisingly gassy. If you weren't before, you will be now. If you look at your snack cart, your beverage cart, anything that's sealed properly, this is not, but if this were sealed properly and we were to jump up to cruising altitude, this bag would be puffy, full of air, because the internal pressure will change versus the external pressure. So it would be very fluffy and full. Sometimes I can't even get the drawers closed on the snack cart. I would avoid eating, again, salt and stuff, but like that bag gets all fluffy, so will you. And you're going to need to pass gas. I know that sounds awful and it's crude, but it's going to happen. Sorry. Everybody poops, everybody farts. So what I do if I know it's going to happen, oh my God, the seatbelt sign's on, I got to, so I'm going to do what I can to hold on. I'm going to run to the restroom, the lavatory. I'm going to do my business, sitting down on the little commode there. I'm going to flush. If I have to do it a couple times, I'm going to do that just to kind of take the evidence away. I know I'm being a little crude, but it's a very real thing in the air. So I tend to avoid carbonated beverages because I don't even want to, gild the internal lily. So avoid carbonated beverages, avoid a lot of salt and things that make you kind of puffy, and that is what I do. Sorry to be crude. Let's see. Yes. Next. 3. How many days off do I get? Short answer, I get on average about 15 days a month. Last month I had 18 days off. This month I have 14 days off. But usually it's about 15 or 16 days off a month. I am not senior enough at my base to pick up a lot of trips out of open time, which could put me into time and a half, because people who are much more senior to me are having a hard time picking up trips. I can get stuff off of trade board, but typically I like to be at home with my cats. honestly. I don't pick up too many trips. I could make more money that way and my life would be easier, but the quality of my life would not be as good. Let's see. Number 4, how long is reserved with my airline? I got a line 11 months in. Right now, people who are being hired right now, I would estimate about 2 years, if not longer. So I would guess about 2 years, 2.5 years. People who were hired, yeah, I'd say in Vegas right now, 2 years would be average. If you are lucky enough to get into Orlando, that might be shorter. It's a very junior base for us. But that base is closed, I think, for now. It might be reopening for new hires or transfers. But I would estimate about 2 years, which is straight reserve. There are other lines that alternate months and blah, blah, blah. It's straight reserve. But once you get a line, you never have to go back on reserve unless you forget to bid, which is never going to happen, right? After we make this video together, I'm going to finish my bid packet, reminding myself. All right, number 5, did you get to pick your base? I got to choose my preferences. When I was hired, we were hiring for all of our bases except for Atlantic City. And I put in my first preference as Fort Lauderdale because I lived in the Tampa area, and I wanted to avoid snow. My next choice was Vegas, and since even in that day there were enough people that had put in for Fort Lauderdale that they had filled up the base, even just during the hiring event. So I got my second choice, which is Las Vegas. My third choice was going to be Chicago because it was a big city, and I love living in a big city. And I'm not a huge, giant fan of Texas in general. So it was Chicago for me. But thankfully I got Vegas, and I'm really happy with that. Down the road, way down the road, I could see myself transferring to Orlando because I do want to live in the St. Pete sort of Clearwater area of Florida in the future. Or one day if I do move to Fort Lauderdale, because I could see myself getting involved in in-flight training maybe one day. 6, how tall do you have to be for your airline? 5 feet tall. I had to go into our website to look for the job description, and you have to be 5 feet tall without shoes. Sorry. 5 feet tall without shoes. You have to be able to reach the top of the overhead bins. And for compliance, you can wear heels if you are a lady when you're wearing any of our uniform pieces. But the height maximum is 3 inches. So you can be 5 feet tall without shoes, but you can wear a 3-inch heel. So if you do want to have a little, little more stature, you can do that. We do not have a height limit. We do have people I know that are 6'4" and 6'5" as flight attendants with my airline. I am just under 6'2". I used to be 6'2", but I'm shrinking because of old age. Let's see, how many years of customer service experience do you need? I had to go to our website to find out, and 2 years of guest service, hospitality, sales, or marketing. And those are pretty wide genres. So anything you've done, if you've worked with people at all for 2 years, you're good. So if you haven't had a lot of work experience, but you've done some babysitting, or you've been a lifeguard, or worked at an ice cream shop, really anything where you've worked with people. Ideally, I think retail is the perfect breeding ground for the skill sets that you'll use. Or if you've been a nurse or something, or if you've been in the military, those would be great, ideal ways to gain your customer service experience. Tips for passing the interview portion. All right, so I wrote down 5. It was hard to write only 5. Turn off your phone. Turn it off. Don't even turn it on during lunch, or if there's a break, don't turn it on. If you turn your phone on and you even look at it during lunch, you're missing out on fantastic opportunities to interact with your potential future training mates. You're missing out on potential opportunities to interact with other people who are working in the event. You're just going to miss out on a whole bunch of stuff, and you're not going to look focused. So turn the darn thing off. Don't even turn it on until you're finished and you're out of the building. Participate without being a jerk. So, sometimes they're going to have interactive portions of the interview. Definitely interact, be a part of, but don't steamroll over other people. Don't yell, don't shout, don't throw elbows. Participate. Look like you're a team player, but don't be like that one guy who's like, look at me, look at me, look at me. I am that person sometimes, and it takes really focus for me to pull back and just participate instead of like, hey, I've got the answers to everything. All right, so professional appearance. So I've worked a couple of these hiring events, and one of the saddest things is to see someone who's done all the preparation but showed up just not looking polished or professional. Guys, your sleeve of your sport coat or your jacket should not be down hanging around your knuckles. If your slacks, your pants, the hem of your pants should not be pooling around your ankles like sloppy. And I say the particular heartbreak is when somebody shows up with a pair of sneakers or Skechers or something on instead of shoes. Now that sounds relatively minor, and in those cases, you'd be surprised how many of our executive team members would be like, oh my God, they were amazing. And every other flight attendant who's participating in this event would be like, no way. There's no way. If that person isn't able to find a cheap enough pair of shoes, they don't have to be cheap. I got a pair of black shoes from Payless when they were going out of business for $6. You can find a pair of shoes. And my executive team was like, oh my God, they're amazing. I love all the answers. And flight attendants were like, if they can't put a pair of shoes on, what are they not going to do when they're working? So I don't want to work with someone who can't even just put a pair of shoes on. Never mind arm their doors, follow through with all their obligations, safety checks, blah, blah, blah. So be professional, be polished. If you're going to wear a suit or something, or dress, make sure that it fits you. It's been tailored, or at least fits approximately as it should. And pay attention to little things like your shoes. They're important. Have fun. And not just because I want you to have a good time. I want everyone to have a good time. But if you look like you're enjoying the process, you're much more likely to get hired. Trust me. And be genuine. Be genuine. If you fake this, if you've been coached by people like me or other flight attendant YouTubers, if you have been coached into knowing exactly the right things to do, say, wear, and you're not being genuine, and you get the job offer, you survive training, and you get on the line, and you're absolutely a very different person. I'm not speaking from experience. Wink, wink. I have met some people in this industry who were absolute jerks. Sorry, nightmares. Could not follow a rule if their lives depended on it, and it could. I've flown with people who clearly were coached, unfortunately, by people like myself and other YouTubers into getting the job, and they were not appropriate for the job. They just weren't. So be genuine. It's serving yourself, because you don't want to get in the situation where you're in a job you don't belong in, and you're not serving your future coworkers or your guests or your company. So be genuine, because if you're just not meant to be at that airline, you're not meant to be there. You could potentially find another airline where you do belong. For example, I would have been fired, I am sure, from some larger, more prestigious names, because I'm much more free-flowing. If you've worked with me, a lot of you guys have worked with me now, you know I wouldn't make it at Delta, for example. I don't think I would. I am just perfectly suited for my airline. So number 9, what made you want to become a flight attendant? Well, I didn't want to be a flight attendant, honestly. I was homeless. I was living in a minivan in Florida, and sleeping in Planet Fitness parking lots, really sexy, and I needed a job. My life had collapsed. Our relationship ended. I couldn't find work in Florida. And I was used to being sort of fancy in Boston. I worked in luxury retail. So when I moved to Atlanta, to a friend's house in Atlanta, you may have seen me mention those, or you may have seen me film videos at the house in Atlanta. I was invited to live up there because the job opportunities were better. Delta is the land, Atlanta is the land of Delta, so I applied for Delta. And my friend Steven said, you know, you should apply for other airlines too if you want to be a flight attendant. I really didn't want to be a flight attendant, but I'm like, oh, all right, fine, I'll apply for some airlines. I applied for American, Delta, JetBlue, and my airline. I don't know why I applied to my airline because I didn't even know it really existed. But I got a no from JetBlue, a no from Delta, and I got an invitation to a hiring event with American after I already finished training with my airline. So I'm going nowhere. Thank you. I survived training once. Going nowhere. But when I wanted to be a flight attendant, it was actually during the hiring event at the orientation. And the first time there was a cut after the Goldfish Bowl question, there was the first cut, and I was hearing people's numbers being called, and I knew they were not going to continue on. I just felt this desperate need to be able to continue on, because once I got to know about the industry and once I got to know about the job, I really, really, really wanted it. And it's been magic. I'm blessed. All right, so question number 10, and this video is already longer than I wanted. Question number 10, advice for new flight attendants. Getting serious here. Know your contract. Don't just read it. Get to know your contract. For example, with my airline, if you're on reserve and crew scheduling calls you to assign you to a trip that starts with a deadhead. With my airline and every other airline, a deadhead means you sit in a passenger seat, a positive space seat. There is going to be a listing with your name on it at the gate. So if I get to the gate for a deadhead and I'm not listed as a passenger, that is breaking part of my contract with my union. So I am going to get to my computer when this trip is over or on a layover, and I'm going to go onto our website and I'm going to file a ticket, tap, tap, tap. And if that ticket's approved, which it would be for that reason, I would get 2 hours pay. Sweet, right? If I get to a hotel room and for a layover and I'm not registered, I don't have a room, guess what? Ticket. So because it's part of my contract, so I know my contract for the most part, so I'm going to tap, 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 file a ticket, and guess what? Ka-ching. So I'm going to get to know my contract intimately. And if I don't want ka-ching, if I don't want those 2 hours pay, I just want an easy trip. When crew scheduling calls me and they say, oh, you have a deadhead, I'm going to ask them, am I listed on the flight? They're going to say, hold on a moment. If it takes more than a minute or two, I wasn't. And they're fixing that now. Same thing with the hotel room. Do I have a hotel room registered under my name? Let me look. Tick tock, tick tock. There wasn't, but now there is. So I can just make my life easier by knowing my contract. And for lots of other reasons. Don't judge your passengers or each other. You don't know what your guest or your passenger has been through that day. This past few weeks, I have had a number of people who are rushing to get somewhere because someone died. And they're just, a woman, not 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, she was rushing to Las Vegas to be by her son for his last breath. He had to do not resuscitate. You don't know why that passenger might be really upset with you or really unpleasant. Recently someone wanted to have us comp them a drink because it was his wife's birthday, and they were just incredibly rude to my coworkers. Incredibly rude. And it's a very long story, but when you start judging someone's behavior and then reacting on that judgment when it might not be based in reality, heads butt, and it's just unpleasant. And in this case, I stepped in at the passengers at our guest's request, and my coworkers didn't understand my resolution or like it. I did try to explain it and blah, 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 but don't judge your passengers and don't judge each other, because I'll tell you, being a flight attendant is fantastic. It can also be really hard sometimes and really emotionally draining. We miss birthdays, we miss holidays, we miss family and friends, we miss all sorts of stuff. And for all sorts of reasons, we can have really crappy days. And for reasons we don't want to share sometimes, or shouldn't have to share with coworkers. So please, if someone's having a bad day and they're not doing enough trash runs, rather than be catty and go like, oh, could you leave the your galley for a minute? You don't know what they're going through. They could have cancer, or something. So don't judge your coworkers. Also, advice for a new flight attendant: don't pick up the bad habits of more senior flight attendants. More senior flight attendants sometimes become cavalier, complacent, and may do things that aren't appropriate or legal or whatever. Don't pick up that habit. If you see a flight attendant taking alcohol out of a cart and putting it in their bag, all right, you have your own directions on what to do that case. Do not follow suit thinking, oh, well, they did it. Jeepers. Don't follow bad examples of other flight attendants. And then lastly, I wrote, don't take anything personally. For example, this interaction I had with some coworkers who didn't like or understand my resolution to a challenge with one of our guests. I think when we first started talking about it, it did come across as personal. They expected me to back them up in the way that they wanted me to back them up. And when I didn't, and I went a different route, I did back them up, but just they didn't see it that way. I think it took a little bit of a conversation to really help her understand why I did something. And I did not want her to take it as a personal affront to her. So don't take anything personal. And again, it can take you back to a customer who is really upset or a passenger who's really upset. Don't take it personal. You do not know what they're going through that day. This particular guest I keep mentioning again and again had missed their flight because of some mistake, problem at the airport. They missed their flight. They had to rebook. And everyone along the way didn't seem to really care about them. And then they just wanted one little thing that was kind of against policy, but we could have bent the rules a little bit. And this one little teeny thing just seemed to be, a big problem at the end. So we just don't know what our guests have been through that day. So don't take anything personally. If they treat you badly, let it roll off your back. And this video is already almost a half hour long. I do apologize. I want to thank Galley Alley for tagging me in this video. It was a lot of fun to film. I thought I would edit it, but it looks like I got it all in one take, which is a blessing. So I'm going to end the tag there. I do want to give you a quick room tour. So if you're if you're interested in room tours, I'm typically not. You can hold on. All right, this is the room from the point of view of the front door. They're including some mystery stains. Very curious. There's a fireplace right here, which I was trying to figure out how to use. I think it's gas powered. I don't know. Little weird windows. Great opportunity for artwork. Just a big miss right there. Kitchen. There's a table right there with the remnants of my dinner, my lunch, I should say. I'm bidding right now. Dishwasher, microwave, all sorts of stuff. So everything you need in a kitchen is all in here. The magic thing here is freezer. Very exciting, including an ice maker, which oddly enough does not make ice when you're awake. It only makes ice cubes when you're trying to sleep. But thankfully there are doors on the bedrooms. Over here on the left is the first bedroom with my very carefully laid out clothing. Is right there. I'll hang it up before I go to bed. There is a larger vanity, a small bathroom. We have the view, which is of a on-ramp, off-ramp, I think, to the highway. And the clouds are pretty. A little autumn showing up right there. Very exciting view. And let's look at the second. Isn't this crazy, the size of this room? The seating area. And then there's the second bedroom. I chose this one because to sleep because there was very little light pouring through the windows. So it was very good to sleep here today. Second giant closet. Smaller vanity, but I like the bed better than the bedroom better here. Little bathroom, and then me. You can see the camera, which is actually my cell phone. Let me actually look at you guys. I film with my cell phone. Some people with even smaller channels than mine have spent $700 plus on a vlogging camera, and with my content I just don't understand that or feel the need to spend that much money on a camera when I think my phone does fine. This is the Galaxy Note 10 Plus. I had the 9 before, the Note 9. Liked it a lot. The 10 Plus has some basic editing software that I haven't really used that much. If you looked at my last DC video, I just put a whole bunch of little clips together, and it was really handy to do that. So I'll use that more often in the future. But I love my phone. I normally wouldn't have thrown the money at the upgrade. It cost me $270 to upgrade. I used a $100 gift card that I got from onboard sales, commissions for the things that we sell on board. And the remainder, $170, I used from a Google payment from the revenue that I get from the advertisements here on YouTube. So that I had a check that was from probably a month and a half. So I got $194 for that paycheck. So that covered the remainder of my phone. So thank you very much for helping me pay for my new phone. It will help me film, I think, better content or more manageable videos in the future. So that's it. I do apologize for how long this video has become. I did not mean it to be this long. If I have not answered any question on this video or in others, because you know I have a lot of question and answer videos, feel free to drop a comment below and subscribe, hit that little notification bell, and I will talk to you later. Bye. Fly safe. Bye.